If you're struggling to monetize your free school group, you can actually give money to your members and make more in return. For context, I spent 100 hours reading Skool co-founder Alex Hormozy's book, $100 Million Money Models, listening to its audiobook, and watching its course. I will share with you the tactics involved in using what's called a win your money back money model. Here's how that model can work for you on Skool. Members of a free school group pay for a one-time challenge offer in the classroom tab because challenges have clear timelines and results to meet. If members successfully complete the requirements, you then credit the price of the challenge to an upsell that is priced higher than the challenge. And in the context of a school community, in the context of school business, your upsell is 99% of the time going to be your continuity offer. So your month to month membership or your annual membership. This makes the challenge effectively free for successful participants and gives them a discount off your upsell. Even though you're giving the challenge away for free, you're still turning a profit because you're rolling your one-time paying members into a recurring offer that is priced higher than the challenge offer. So kind of prerequisite step before anything else, before your members hop into the challenge in question, is that you frame this challenge as the first step in a member's journey. And the benefit of this is that if you set the expectation that this challenge is just the first step in a multi-step plan, the first step in a long-term journey within your community, then members are just far more likely to stay in your community for the long run. In terms of the challenge itself, the first course of action you're going to want to take is actually set a goal for members of the challenge. And this is based on two things. Either the members achieve a certain outcome, which makes them eligible to win their money back, or they successfully complete a series of required actions, or they achieve a certain outcome and follow a set of required actions. And the point that I want to stress here for your required outcome or your required action is that you make these items as simple as possible. Clarity always beats confusion. Because if a member's not understanding what is expected of them in this challenge, then there's all this friction. They might not even start. They might just become a lurker or leave or request a refund and just not know what to do. And so if you provide absolute clarity, you make the outcome simple, you make the required actions for this challenge simple, then a member has no excuses not to get started with this challenge, not to see it to its end, right? Not to successfully complete it and proceed with their journey within your community. So bottom line here is just make the required actions or outcome as simple as possible. A simple example could be for an outcome that members lose 10 pounds of body fat, let's say. And if they achieve that result by some kind of arbitrary margin of time, then they're eligible to win their money back or use it as credit to any of your other offers that you have on hand. Another example could be that members in, let's say, a business niche, a business school, have to make X amount of dollars in some kind of specified time frame. In the case where a member achieves a certain outcome, let's say they lose the 10 pounds of body fat from this challenge, instead of just giving them their money back and wishing them goodbye, it's better for you as the school community owner, and frankly, better for the member who's undergone the challenge to stay for the long term. So what you're going to want to do is when they achieve the outcome is roll their winnings, credit their winnings towards another offer that you have on hand. And on Skool, this is essentially your continuity offers. So whether you have a subscription tier that's monthly or annual, try to credit their winnings towards your continuity. That way your member stays longer, they pay you more, and they see better results, which if they experience those within their community, they'll relate those changes to your community and to your coaching, whatever it is that you have set up within your school group. So ultimately, the benefit of the win your back money offer as a school community owner is that you're converting a one-time sale of a challenge into your continuity offer. So as long as you keep that member within your community and make sure that they don't churn, that you're making money month to month or year to year instead of a one and done one time challenge purchase. And from the members' perspective, they're actually getting the whole challenge for free and a discount on your continuity. So it's a win-win for you because you get to keep them as a long-term member, as a long-term customer, and they get a discount off of your continuity, as it were, and they also get the challenge for free. So it's a win-win for both parties, the community owner and the community member. By the way, if you found this lesson helpful so far and want personalized guidance directly from yours truly, then you might consider checking out the links in the description below. So let's move on with examples of what some required actions could be. You can set some of these required actions as actions that benefit the business. The reason for this is because in this win your money back model, if a member, of course, successfully completes the challenge, well, of course, they get their money back or they get it credited towards your Skool continuity. So it's understood that because they're getting this whole suite of features and this whole experience, this challenge for free if they successfully complete it, then it's understandable that there's something in it for the Skool community owner. That way you're not operating at a total loss by providing this challenge to members. So it's completely understandable that you have at least one or two items in there that benefit the Skool community in one way or another. And an example of a required action that benefits the business, but of course also the member, is let's say that you have calls. You have calls in your community, you have live calls, and you want members to attend these calls. And so you could say that one of the required actions is that, let's say, for example, it's a 30-day challenge that for those 30 days, members show up to the weekly calls. And a little note on the calls here is that these calls can be one-on-one calls. So in terms of an example of how this can play out, let's say you have a 30-day challenge and halfway through, 2 weeks into this challenge, you have a midway point meeting. And during this one-on-one call, you talk to the member about how the challenge is going for them, what are the hardships that they're undergoing as a result of taking on this challenge, what are the successes that they're making, what are their strengths, their weaknesses, that kind of thing. And maybe if you have some kind of higher level of service outside of the challenge that they seem like a good fit for, well, there's no other reason not to sign them up for that challenge in the moment during that call. So what you can do is use the call as some kind of upsell opportunity, right? If you have an offer that makes sense for the member in question, then by all means pitch it to them. And if they're interested in it, then all of a sudden you're making a whole lot more money out of this member. Or if they're not interested, they can continue the challenge and you could pitch them at the end, right? Because ultimately the idea here with the win your money back offer is that you're not trying to obviously lose out on your money as the Skool community owner or as the business owner here. What you're trying to do is take that money that was initially invested into the challenge by the member and then roll it into your other offers. And on Skool, it's going to be 99% of the time your continuity. So your monthly membership or your annual membership, whatever the case may be for you. So you want to increase the likelihood that the member takes you up on your continuity. And one way to do that is to just talk with the member more, right? So you can have some kind of meeting at the start of the challenge. You can have a meeting midway through because at least you're armed with material, right? Because if they're 2 weeks into the challenge, well, the member has experienced the group, they've experienced the challenge, they know what works for them, they know what doesn't, you know what works for them, and you know what doesn't work for them. And so you're actually in a better position to filter them and screen them and see if they're actual good fits for the offers that you have in question for them, at which point you can then pitch them if it makes sense. And then you could even do one at the end. Like, let's say they don't take you up on your offer 2 weeks in, they need to think about it more. They actually want to see the challenge to its end before thinking about anything else. That's totally understandable. That's cool. Then at the end of the challenge, you can make a required transformation call at the end of it where members have to hop on call to discuss their progress as a whole, to look back on the whole 30 days of challenge. Again, during that call, you can pitch them to whatever upsells make sense for them. Or maybe the member doesn't make sense, in which case you don't pitch them anything. But ultimately, you want to increase the likelihood that the members not only win their money back, but that you can then credit that money towards your continuity offer so that you can keep them in your school community for the long term. So another thing I want to touch on is when to have outcomes as a requirement for your challenge, also when to have required actions as a requirement for your challenge, and then when is it good to have both. So you want to have outcomes as the requirement for your school community challenge in this case when the avatar of your group is a person who already has these skills. They're equipped to achieve that outcome without any kind of accountability, right? Without having to follow some kind of plan. So in those cases, let's say that the avatar coming into this fitness community is well aware how to lose the 10 pounds of body fat. And so you would just have the outcome as the requirement for the challenge, and you wouldn't need any required actions whatsoever. But realistically, if someone wants to lose 10 pounds and they're signing up for a challenge, it's likely because they have struggled with it and they don't actually know how to lose the 10 pounds. So let's assume that you have a completely different avatar for your fitness group, and the people coming into doing this challenge have no idea how to lose 10 pounds whatsoever. And that's when it helps to have both required actions and an outcome as requirements for this challenge. And so that way, the required actions make up for the lack of skills that the member coming into the challenge doesn't have, right? And so if they just follow those required actions, they don't even need the skill or the knowledge. They just need to follow what you've prescribed to them as far as behaviors are concerned to see the result, which is to ultimately lose those 10 pounds in those 30 days for this example. And in terms of when to apply required actions as the sole requirement for your school challenge here, well, again, using this fitness example, maybe you don't want to universally apply the outcome that a member has to lose 10 pounds because people coming in are starting from all sorts of different weights and have all sorts of different health situations. And so instead of having this blanket lose 10 pounds outcome for the challenge, you can just have the required actions of going to the gym, for example, 3 times a week, uploading daily pictures of what they're eating to hold them accountable to some kind of group chat, these kinds of things. So in terms of good practices, one of the first things I'd recommend is that if you have a win your money back challenge in your school community that has required actions as criteria, I would recommend that you make some of these required actions, or at least one of them, something that promotes your school community, an action or behavior that promotes your school community. And an example of that would be referrals, and testimonials. So say, for example, one of the terms of the challenge could be that you need to invite a friend, right? And if they invite a friend and do all the other required actions, and maybe if they achieve the outcome that you specify, that they win their money back or have that credited towards your school continuity. But you can also have them do a testimonial, for example. So one of the required actions could be that at the end of, say, for example, this 30-day challenge, that they upload a short 5-minute video answering, a set of questions that you give them, and that you can use that video as a testimonial for your marketing, right? So these are terms. You're the community owner. You're the one who's organizing and hosting this challenge. You get to set the terms, especially if you're going to make no money from it, right? So there has to be something in it for you. And I explained this earlier. It's totally understandable that if you're providing a tremendous level of service for free and then even crediting the payment of that challenge towards your continuity, that there has to be something in it for the school community owner, and that's totally understandable. And one of those things could be either referrals or a testimonial, or maybe even both. So that's up to you as the community owner to decide when you're crafting the offer, when you're crafting the roadmap rather, for this Win Your Money Back challenge in your school group. If you found this lesson helpful and you want personalized guidance from me, then you might consider exploring the links in the description below.